Hi, I'm Luke Raymond from Inaxsys Security Systems. I'm here today to talk to you about the WX platform from ICT. The Protege WX platform is a truly integrated access control and intrusion platform, all in an easy-to-program web browser-based solution. I'll start by showing you the basics of the system, how to put it together, what it does. Then I'm going to pass you over to Mark McRae, our president here at Inaxsys Security Systems, to show you how to program a basic solution. Let's get to it. Here at Inaxsys Security Systems, we are a global manufacturer for many different products, including our Archive, Storm, and ViewPro brands, as well as being the master distributor for the ICT brand for Canada and parts of Europe. Inaxsys has a national Canadian presence with representatives in every region of the country to help our partners in designing the best solutions for their projects. If you wish to contact your local representative, please follow the link below and you can find their contact information. Today, we will be discussing the integrated Protege WX platform from ICT, and our president and co-founder, Mr. Mark McRae, will go over the basics on how to program a new system via the system's built-in web browser. The Protege WX is an integrated access control and intrusion platform that is entirely web browser-based for both programming and for the end-user experience. This makes deploying a system easy and cost-effective, offering customers the ability to have a single platform for their access control and intrusion systems, saves on both programming and hardware installation time, as well as reduces the end user's real estate needed to deploy any system. A single controller can be expanded to meet the needs of even your largest jobs, offering you the ability to have up to 128 doors of access control, 512 intrusion zone inputs, 512 programmable outputs, and 32 partitions or areas, as well as 10,000 user codes. Add to this the elevator control, third-party wireless lock integration, and a free mobile app, and the WX platform offers a powerful, all-in-one solution for any application. Programming is all done via the integrated web browser via an intuitive wizard for quick and easy deployments, making this the ideal platform for any installer. For technicians who wish to further explore Protege WX and its higher level functions, an easy online training is available free of charge called the W Expert. If you wish to access this online training, please click the link below and you will be able to register for this free online course. The Protege WX controller is a fully integrated intrusion and access control solution with a built-in web browser that allows you to service the system, make changes on the fly, and even upgrade the firmware without ever having to go on site. The built-in Ethernet port makes connecting the panel to your local area network a cinch, and the onboard LED lights allow on-site technicians to easily diagnose problems even without the use of the integrated web browser. To make choosing the right configuration for your application easier, we've actually created bundled kits to get you started. From a basic 2 or 4-door access control kit that contains readers, controllers, power supplies, credentials, and a housing, to basic intrusion kits that contain keypads and zone expanders, to hybrid kits that do both, we've created kits that can get you started no matter what your need is. As you build your system beyond the basic kits, you're going to find that designing it is actually really easy. All of our modules are configured for standard DIN rail mounting and clip easily into any DIN rail cabinet for easy and compact installation. When expanding a system, each access control expander offers up to 2 doors of expansion with the capacity to do up to 4 readers, 2 in and 2 out, as well as an additional 8 zone inputs, 8 PGM outputs, and 2 FORBC relays. If you need additional inputs or outputs for additional intrusion zones or elevator controls, input and output expanders can also be added to the system as your needs expand. Our DIN rail mounting supervised power supplies also connect to the same bus line as all of the controllers and expanders, and they are offered in a 2 amp, a 4 amp, or even an 8 amp configuration. For any application that needs intrusion keypads, we actually have a variety of models to offer you, including our brand new 5-inch capacitive touchscreen keypad, which is available in either black or white. Our DIN rail enclosures are designed to make your installations clean and simple. They're offered in configurations of 2, 4, or 8 DIN, so that they can meet any application you happen to have. Our TSEC access control readers are designed for flexibility and ease of use. By offering you multi-technology readers, we've given our partners the ability to upgrade security credentials without actually having to change the readers out, as well as the ability to accept multiple types of credentials at the same time. This makes using both mobile credentials and physical credentials at the same time a breeze. Our TSEC readers are high-security, multi-format readers, and they're available in many different form factors, from a small form factor to a standard reader size, long range, and with or without keypads. We have a reader that meets every need. These TSEC multi-format readers accept standard 125 kHz Wiegand credentials, traditional MyFair CSN credentials, more modern MyFair high-security credentials, the ultra-secure DesFire credentials, and even mobile Bluetooth credentials, all on the same reader. So whatever level of security you happen to need, we've got you covered. To add functionality, our version 3 TSEC readers now offer fully controllable LEDs. The color of the programmable LEDs can change for different types of alarms or visual notifications, either on a reader-by-reader basis or actually across an entire site. To add to the already robust security that our systems offer, each reader can also be programmed for OSDP communication and can encrypt the data even from the back of the reader to the controllers. Being able to improve the overall security of your system via RS-485 cabling without actually having to change the reader means even more flexibility for every installation you have. So now that I've shown you the WX platform, the components that go into making a solution, and how to build the solution together, I'm going to pass you over to Mark and he's going to show you the basics of programming the WX platform itself.
Hi, my name is Mark McRae, and I'm going to be showing you how to program the basics of an ICT Protege WX integrated access control and intrusion system. Before we begin with the programming, I'd like to cover a little bit of the demo kit that we have set up here. So first of all, we have two readers, a white TSEC mini reader and a black TSEC standard with keypad built in. This is our Protege WX controller. It's the brains of the system. It's what makes all the decisions. Next over here, the next module is our Protege RDM2 door module. It is a 2-door 4-reader module. Next down here is a power supply. The power supply is a 4-amp power supply, and it's what's supplying the power for the entire system you see here. Next over, we have a half-DIN 16-input expander. Next over, we have a half-DIN 8-input expander. And last but not least, down here, we have one of our black Protege KLCS capacitive keypads. Now, the wiring of entire system is an RS-485 wiring. The RS-485 wiring, in our case here, is starting from the controller. You can see it here. It goes from the controller to the door expander, to the power supply, to the 16 zone, to the 8 zone, and finally to the keypad. So it is all one complete RS-485 bus in a series after each other, terminated at the controller and at the keypad. Also, I have two more communication buses between the readers and the reader ports, because these readers, they are RS-485 readers or OSDP readers. They are not connected Wiegand to this controller, they're connected in RS-485, which gives them the advantage of being supervised.
Welcome to this introductory training on Protege WX. My name is Mark McRae, and I'm going to try to walk you through the basic programming of Protege WX. The very first step and the best resource you could possibly have for programming Protege WX is the online training on the ICT website. To access the online training, please go to www.inaxsys.com, click on support, go to ICT registration, and to speed things up, I've already filled out the registration details here with my name, my email, company, phone number, and I've added a comment here. I would like to be able to do the W Expert training. Thanks. Send this in, and within 24 hours we will contact you, and we're going to give you an access to the ICT website, and I'm going to log into the ICT website in a few seconds. Once you've received your username and password access to the ICT website, you can browse to the ict.co website, and to log in, simply go to member login, enter your username and password, click login here, and once you are logged into the ICT website, you can do a search, or you can click on My ICT, go to Training and Certification, and then you can log in to a webinar, online classroom, or facilitated training. In our course here, we would like to do an ICT online classroom training for WX. Click on it. and then follow the instructions under where do I start. In my case, I've already started on the Protege WX Training courses, so I can click the courses I'm working on or other courses available, and you'll see which courses are available to you as a student for the online training. And the W Expert course should be inside of other courses available if you've never started a course. In my case, I will go to courses I'm working on, and you will find that I have a large number of different trainings that I've started. Some I haven't finished, some I have, and some of which I'm certified for. But the one in question is the Certified Protege W Expert that I can now continue my training on. This is an excellent course, multiple modules, and as you start the different modules, you need to run through them, and at the end, generally, there's a small exam, a few question exam. Once you finish a module, automatically goes back to the next module, and it will remember where you are completely. So as you can see, I have done everything except for advanced control programming. I haven't completed my exam. There are 3 more essential reference documents that are essential if you're going to learn how to program a Protege WX. Click on My ICT, go to User Documentation, and then you will find that there are 3 documents here: Protege WX Programming Reference Manual, the System Network Administrator's Guide, and the End User Guide. All 3 are essential reading, required reading if you're going to be programming a Protege WX. I have already downloaded and opened the Protege WX Programming Reference Manual. It's a PDF, and it's essential to understand the limitations and the possibilities you can have with Protege WX. So read through it, very important. I'd like to discuss really quickly the system expansion and capacities. So these are all the capacities of the Protege WX system on a single controller if you have followed the Protege WX training. If you haven't followed the training, some of these capabilities or capacities are not available if you have not done the training and registered a controller. So floors, elevator cars, and programmable functions are only available to Protege WX Advanced Mode. That is the W Expert if you had followed the training and you register the controller.
Now we're ready to connect to our Protege WX panel for the first time. The default IP address of every WX panel is 192.168.1.2. Press enter. You will come to the login page and log in using admin as your first initial login. So admin and the password being admin. Sign in. It'll say welcome to Protege WX, and it'll say that the controller has not been registered. We'd like to register it now.
So I will choose to register it because I have completed my Protege WX training. I click on yes. It brings me to the licensing and registration page. I've already connected to internet. In my case, it is not. My PC is connected to internet. My controller is just connected to my PC. So I'm going to have to choose manual licensing, and I will choose to generate a request file. I'm going to say I'll have my requested file here. So now I have my requested file. It asks me to go to Protege WX registration. The serial number will be automatically inserted. I'll click on Browse, find the request file, do open, submit. It's then going to choose to save on my computer, my laptop, a license file that I will then use in the controller to activate those additional functions. So I'll do OK. It's saved that license file. I'll open it here. I'll know where to point to it. I come back to my controller. I browse to that license file. It is right there. I do open and I install the file. It is now complete. My licensing update is successful. It boots me out and I'll log back in using my username and password that I had, admin. I sign in, and it'll tell you that it would like you to change your username and password immediately because the default admin is a security risk. It's not very secure. You should change it right now. For the purposes of this demo, I won't change mine, but you should immediately change the username and password right now. Now, you can see that my registration is active, and if ever I come here to Systems, and I go to licensing, you'll see that my controller is enabled, that I am now able to do 128 doors, where an unlicensed controller can only do 32. Now that my Protege WX controller is registered, and I have changed my username and password to something more secure than simply admin, I'll want to start programming my controller. First step will be to click on the ICT icon, which brings us home. You'll see on the top left-hand corner here, there are wizards. There's a certain number of wizards wizards we can run through so that most of the programming is done almost automatically, and it's very, very simple. First one we'll do will be an expanders wizard. Then we're going to run through the access control, the security, and the users wizard. And by the end of these wizards, you'll find that a very good portion, a large portion of the programming of the system will already be done. Just so you know what we're dealing with in my programming, I have a Protege WX controller. I have a 4-amp intelligent power supply. I have a 2-door door expander. I have a half-DIN 16-in input expander. And I also have an 8-input input expander in my demo case. I'll now begin the very first wizard, which will be to have the Protege GX controller recognize all of the expanders I just mentioned. So I click on expanders, wizards, expanded wizard. I will then click on the auto detection button. I forgot to mention I also had a keypad, but it has found all of the different modules that I have. I have my half-DIN 16 input, my 8 input, my door expanders. It sees that there are 2 because the master controller is seen as a door expander, and my 4-amp power supply, as well as the keypad I forgot to tell you about. I click on additional modules. I do not have any additional modules in the system. This is the sum total of everything I have. I'll then save and return to menu, and all of these modules and all of their associated programming will be now added to the system. And if I click on expanders and keypads, you'll see that I do have a keypad. Or expanders and reader expanders, you see that I have 2 of them, my onboard readers and my reader expander, which is my controller, and my second reader expander. The next step in the programming will be going back to the wizards and doing the access control wizard. In my case, I have 4 doors. I have 2 doors on my Protege WX controller that are seen here as being onboard reader, and I have 2 doors that are on my reader expander on ports 1 and 2 of my reader expander. I can rename all of these things. I can rename my controller, and I can select also my doors if I have here. Okay, I can rename all these doors. Door 1, door 2. I'll rename door 3 and 4, the ones on the door expander. So I'll rename this one called door 3, reader expander 2. I'll call it OK. And the other one here, I'll rename it door 4, reader expander 2. I'll do OK. I decide whether or not these readers are entry or exit readers. In my case, they are all entry readers, and I'll save and continue. The next step will be to choose an unlock schedule for all 4 of my doors, door 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see that we have 4 schedules that are pre-programmed in the system. You can add more if you want to, simply by going to scheduling and schedules here. But taking a look, you see that there are never, work hours, after hours, and break hours. If you'd like to modify any of these or add more, or simply choose never, you can go ahead. But if you want to, you go to scheduling, schedules, and you'll see never always exists, and you can't modify it. But here's my work hours, after hours, break hours schedule, and you see a description. It's 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the work hours schedule. And then you see a graphic down here that shows you display of what those hours mean. Let's say we choose the after hours one. You'll see it's a little bit different. And break hours one, you also see it's just 3 breaks a day. I'll now go back to my programming access control wizard. I click on access control wizard. It remembers the last time I saved. I'll save and continue. I did not choose any unlock schedules. I want these doors to be locked all the time. And if I save and return to menu, it brings me back to my general ICT menu. I do have a message here that says input expander 2 requires a module restart. If ever you see this information, you can go to the expanders, input expander, go to input expander number 2 and click restart. That's the message it gave, so you will give a restart for that input expander. Once the restart has been done on the input expander, now you can see if I go back to my ICT button, I'm back on my home page, you can see that I no longer have any outstanding health status messages, so I can continue my program. The next wizard I'll want to run through will be the security wizard. So security wizard is the alarm or burglar alarm intrusion wizard. It's going to give me a warning right away saying that any modifications that I will do in the security wizard require that all partitions or areas be disarmed and that the 24-hour protection or monitoring be disabled. Any areas that exist in the system right now that are currently armed will be disarmed and will require a manual rearming. You have to follow all the steps of this wizard all the way to the end so that the 24-hour protection will be re-enabled. It's asking you if you want to continue. Say yes. It's going to ask you, well, by default, it's already created one partition, and I'll call it, we called it area 1. I'm going to call it office. And it asks me to define what bell output will be used. I'm going to choose the controller bell 0. That's the output that is already pre-assigned as being the bell output on the controller. I'll leave the default 4-minute time not changed. My entry delay time, I will change it very short, 5 seconds for reasons of demo here. Normally it'd be much longer than that. But my entry delay output, what I'm going to want, what is it going to be doing when it's in an entry delay? So I'd like to have the keypad beeper buzzing in entry delay. And in exit delay, I'd like to have the same thing. Keypad buzzer buzz. I'll save and continue. Now we get to set the end of line resistors for all of the different inputs or zones that we have on our system. Okay. So for example, my controller input number 1 that I can change the name might be a door contact front door of the office. By default, it says that it's dual end of line resistors. So 1K alarm, 1K tamper, but there are many other options for either our controller or other manufacturers' controllers if you're doing a takeover of an existing alarm system. You can also put no resistors, although we don't suggest this. The input type or zone type that you have, in my case here would be, let's say, delay for the front door, and it is part of the partition or area called office. I'll come down here and all of the rest I'll leave them the way they are, save and continue. Then it asks me information for the monitoring station, whether it be IP reporting or using the dialer over contact ID. So I could enter some information here, 1234 as a client code, my primary or backup phone numbers of the receiver at the central station. If I'm using IP reporting, which is the preferential type of reporting, I would enter a client code here, IP address. All of this information would normally be given to you by your monitoring station. If I save and return to menu, it's going to start my reporting services. It's going to program those zones and those areas or partitions the way that it was programmed. And most importantly, it will re-enable my 24-hour monitoring on my system. Next up will be the final wizard called the Users Wizard. I click on Wizards User Wizard. I'll enter my first name, last name, McRae. I'll enter a very simple pin 1234. I will choose the area or partition that I'm allowed to arm and disarm. I'll choose office. And if I go to doors, I can select any door, or if I press the control key, I can then multiple select, so I can select and remove like this while my finger's on the control key and I'm clicking. Or if I click on the first, press the shift key, click on the last, we'll select all of them. Once I've done the programming, let's say I add a facility code here or site code 123, let's say, and a card number 12345. That's not my real number. I'll change it later. And if I come down here and do add user, it will add me with the doors, the partitions or areas, card number, facility code, my PIN, which is now blanked out, first name, last name. It's now been added into the users. And if you take a look up here in the users, if I go to users now, you'll see that Mark McRae is now one of the users that's been added. And there are 3 others that are there: a default installer, a default master, and a default user demo. You can change these if you'd like to and delete them if you'd like to also. Now we've run through the basic wizards that are available in Protege WX. If I click on Return to Menu on the bottom here, then you'll find that on the top there are a number of other menus: users, monitoring, programming, scheduling, expanders, automation, and system, that are available. Inside of each one of these menus, there are many, many different options of advanced programming that you can do. So we've done the very basic programming with the wizards, but there is additional programming that you will want to do and that you can do to make your system more functional. So let's take a look at some additional programming that you should do on your system. So we added all of the expanders. So keypad, 2 input expanders, power supply, 2 door expanders, one of which was my controller. But if I go over here to expanders, I will see the individual expanders. So if I click on keypads, I see that I have a keypad, and there is some general information that you might want to change. So for example, if you wanted the display on the keypad, the default display on the keypad, to be something other than Protege WX by ICT, perhaps your company name, perhaps your end users welcome to with the end user name there. That might be something interesting for the customer. If we come over here to configuration, you can specify certain things for it. So you can specify if this keypad belongs to a specific partition or if it controls all of the different partitions, and then whether it belongs to an area, whether there is a menu group that's specific for this keypad, so that this keypad cannot show some menu items such as disarming, for example, or going to options. There's many different options you can choose. I won't, in my case here, change any of these default options, but just so that you know, there's a lot of different possibilities of programming inside of the keypads. Once I have done a module restart or module update, I noticed that the readers are now constantly blue, which is their normal status. And now that they are constantly blue, it would allow me to present a card to these readers and have a card read. How do I see a card being read? It's simple. I click on monitoring, go to events, and I badge my card on the reader. And in real time, you see here, I have read site code 230 and card number 45408. If I expand with the little plus right to the right of it here, it's asking me, do I want to add this card because it's an unknown card right now? Do I want to add this card by creating a new user or adding it to an existing? Well, I'd like to add it to myself, so it will be Mark McRae, and I'll do OK. So now this card has been added. If I go to users now and look at Mark McRae, I see that I now have a facility card number, the second one here. The first one wasn't real, but the second one here is the one I've just added. And it now exists for me. Once a user has been added, it's very important to be able to allow him to have rights on the system to create access levels. Access levels define where the person can go, which doors he can go through, which partitions he can arm and disarm. It also defines what doors, what arming areas, what floors if they're allowed for floor or elevator control, which menus they can see on a keypad also. So it's important to have access levels created according to the rights of the users or the groups of users that you will have on the system. I'm now going to create an access level. I'm going to click on add, and I'll call this access level test users. And then I will save this and then come and modify some things. So I'll go to doors and I'll click on add, choose the doors by pressing control like this that he's allowed to go to. I'll do all 4 doors, whether they're allowed entry and exit on the door and what schedules they're allowed to go there. Right? If I wanted to, I could go a little bit faster, and if I had created door groups, then instead of choosing the individual doors, I could have gone to door groups and then simply added a group of doors, and it's a lot faster than adding individual doors. Both are possible though, okay? So in this case here, I could just select include all doors, and then every door in the system will automatically be added for this access level called test user. Which areas this group of people called test users can arm? I click on arming area. If I click on include all areas for arm and include all areas for disarm, will allow me to arm and disarm all the different areas. Now take note that if you are allowed to disarm areas, you will automatically be allowed to arm, because if you can remove protection on an area or partition, you should also be able to put protection on that area or partition. If you have elevator control, you can define the different floors, floor groups, and elevator groups that you are allowed to go to. And the menu groups here define which menus you will be able to see when you access a keypad. If I click on add here, I will choose all menus, and now this test user access level will be allowed to see all menus on the keypad. I now save, and I've created a new access level. Once you have created the access levels to define the rights of the groups of users that you would like on your system, then you come back to users here, come to users, and I'll choose me, clicking on me. Once I go to access over here, these are the rights of those access levels. So I have one here for myself, access level 5. I'll click on it. I'll do delete to get it out of there because I'd like to use the one I just created. Okay, so I'll click on add. I will choose test users. I'll do OK, and then I'll save. And these rights are going to change for me as a user. And now that I've changed the access rights for Mark McRae, you'll see that if I go to monitoring events now, when I badge that card on my system, the event that I get now is user Mark McRae granted entry to door 1 using test user's access level by using the card number with today's time and date. Right? I could badge my card on the second door. It'll be the same thing. It'll be for door number 2, door number 1, door number 2. And now we see that the events come in for the user Mark McRae is being granted entry. Now that we see that my card works, let's try my code on the keypad. So I take my LCD keypad. You guys can't see this, but I'm taking my LCD keypad. And if I come here to monitoring and view what happens, if I enter my code, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, and then it says, good morning, Mark McRae, you see that I am logged in at the keypad number 1, and I would like to arm a partition. It's then verifying. It tells me I have open zone, so it's not letting me arm. I could bypass if or force arm if the zones would allow me and my rights would allow me. But I've pressed the X button, and you see that the area has been canceled. Area arming has been canceled by me at keypad number 1. So let's go over a few more programming tips. If ever I wanted to add partitions or areas, for example, I would come to programming and I would go to areas. And you see I have two areas here. One is called the system area. The system area is where all of my temper alarms, door forced open, door held open, AC failure, low battery, those typical 24-hour zones or 24-hour protection is added to an area that is pre-programmed in the system called the system area. You'll also notice there is a second partition here called office area. That's the one I created and modified during the wizard. But if I wanted to add another one, I would simply click on the add plus here, call it warehouse, then come into configuration, choose, let's say, entry time of 5 seconds, exit time of 5 seconds, different options. If I have a child area, what would be my client code for this partition or area? If I was using any reporting services such as contact ID or report over IP, what are the outputs for the area? A very important one is the bell output, but also the entry delay, exit delay outputs, etc. So all of these things can be programmed. Other options that I can have if I want to report the arming and disarming to the central station, and other options also, and then I press save. Now I've created a new area called warehouse, which now becomes available to select when I'm doing access levels, giving access level rights. If I have chosen in my access level rights all areas, warehouse automatically becomes part of the all areas choice inside of the access levels. Another important programming portion is programming of the doors. So if I come to programming, then doors, you see that I have the 4 doors that I created using my wizard right at the beginning. And you'll notice that on the general tab, there is a door type option here. And this is a very important one. It allows me to select how we will interface with the reader at that door. So I have only readers with no keypad. So the door type I would choose would be card only. But if you had a reader keypad combo, then card and pin or card or pin could be a selection. And if you had a keypad only, then you could have pin only if you wanted to. Another interesting option is the area inside the door here. You can define which partition or area is on the other side of a door. The purpose of this is if you badge a card at the reader and the area inside the door is armed, then you can disarm it if you have the rights to be able to disarm the area inside the door. So this is unifying access control and alarm together. So if I did select an area inside the door, let's say office, and then save, it would also require me, if I wanted to disarm that area as I go through that door, it would also require me to make one modification over here under expanders, reader expander. I would go to reader expander door number 1, we call it reader 1, and then I will define how I want to arm at that door. So let's say I arm area on 2 reads, and if I come down here, and if I disarm the area for door on access, if I activate this option, that combined with arm area and 2 reads, and that area being part of the door on the other side of the door, those options together will allow me to arm and disarm using a card at that door. Now, it would be possible that I might have to do a restart on this module because I have modified some programming. I'll come to ICT here and it will tell me if I need to do a restart. And yes, I do. It says reader expander onboard reader requires a module restart. So I would come to expander addressing, click on restart, and do a module restart for my system. After a full module restart, I can now come back to my ICT logo and see that I no longer have any health status messages telling me to do a module update or a module restart. Now, once I'm finished my programming to arm on 2 reads and to disarm area for door on access, the area for the door is the office area, it reminds me that the exit and entry delays that I put on the system, they were not beeping, they were constant. So I think I'm going to have to go to my programming areas here just so that the office beeper of the keypads will beep instead of being constant. So if I come here to office and go to outputs, if I scroll down a little bit, I see my exit delay output is keypad 1 beeper. It's not pulsing. So these are they're not in seconds or milliseconds, these are in 100 millisecond increments. So if I put 5, it will be half a second. So pulse on, it will beep for half a second, it'll be off for half a second. And the same thing for my entry. I will want my beeper to beep, so I will put 5 for entry, 5 for exit, and then I'll come up here and I'll save. Now, if I'd like to test the delays that I put on my office area outputs, so the beeper at 500 milliseconds for entry and exit delay. I then come up here to monitoring and go to areas and click on office area because that's the one that I wanted. I see it's armed. If I go to controls, I can disarm it, and you see it's now disarmed. I'll go to controls and I will arm it, and you see that I have a 5-second exit delay on the arming of the area called office. Now, if I go to my keypad, and you're going to hear me punch into my keypad, if I go to my keypad and do my code, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, and it gives me a good morning, and it says I have my system area disarmed, my warehouse disarmed, and my office is armed. If I click on the disarm key, you'll see that I've used the keypad now to disarm. I could also now use my card if I wanted to badge on the office reader. If it's disarmed, if I double badge on the office reader like this, you see it's a single badge to unlock the door and disarm. Another interesting part of the monitoring tab would be the monitor the status of doors. We did areas already and we saw events, but let's go to doors. You can monitor the status of the doors, and you see that my door 1 and 2 are locked and closed. If I click on the controls and do an unlock, it has unlocked my door. If I then badge my card, and it relocks automatically, if I badge my card on door number 2, for example, like this, you see it's been unlocked by user, but it's still closed because nobody went through the door. We've now done a very quick overview of the programming of Protege WX, but before we leave, I'd like to point out that you should never, ever, ever leave a site without going to System, Backup, and then back up the controller programming. I will back it up, I'll have a file, it's now on my laptop right here that I can then restore. If ever something happens to this controller, I can now restore the controller programming by clicking on Browse, finding the backup, do Open, and restore the controller. And it'll upload the database to that of the backup, upload it here, and I will bring the controller back online with the programming before. So never forget that once you've done programming on a system, go to the system, click backup, back up the controller, save this in a safe place, and if ever you want to recuperate that programming, you click on Browse, find the file, restore the controller, and you will be back up and running in a matter of seconds. That concludes our basic programming for Protege WX. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd like to remind you to follow the WXpert training by going to the Inaxsys.com website, registering, requesting that you want to follow a training, and then going to the ICT.co website once you've received your username and password, and logging in to be able to follow the WXpert training. And also, don't forget to download the programming reference manual, System Network Administrator Guide, and End User Guide. These are very, very important informational guides for the end user, the network admin, and all of the programming that we've covered here today and more. I'd like to thank you for your time and have a great day.
So now we've learned how to program a basic 2-door system using Protege WX. For more questions, please reach out to your local sales representative or go to our website at www.inaxsys.com. Thank you.